Hey everyone, Barrett here from C4 Cyber Club at Cypress College. Today in this video, I'm going to go over one of the Security Plus objectives in terms of analyzing and differentiating among types of attacks. And in this lab specifically, we're going to go over Windows commands that can be used as an attack and within an attack environment. To kind of add some context to this, and this is not something that the lab technically goes over, but this kind of relates to what's called enumeration. So enumeration is a process where the attacker establishes an active connection with the victim and tries to discover as many attack vectors as possible, which can then be used to exploit the systems further. This is a part of one of the first phases of penetration testing, which is the reconnaissance or information gathering phase. So enumeration can be used to gain information on things like network shares, different usernames, password policy lists, SNMP data, and also IP tables. So what this lab is kind of pointing out, we'll be using some of the Sysinternals tools like PSEXEC, SC, which I believe is session control. Let me scroll down here. Yeah, so we'll be viewing and accessing network resources using PSEXEC to connect to a remote system, and then stopping, starting, and removing services. And what this lab is trying to get across is, while you could do this just straight away from your own system, this is more about like if an attacker is able to get into the internal network. They're able to maybe, like we did in the last lab, we gained a reverse shell into a system. And then once an attacker is in the system, they could use your own commands against you in a sense. So that's what this lab is mainly going over. And we're only going to be using one machine here, which is the Windows 7 attack machine. So no, you just have to log into this one right here. So, and we'll be working in the command line. So let me go ahead and increase the font size a little bit. There we go. Okay, so first it wants to show us how we could use the net command to view resources. It just gives you some options here. This is something I believe we're going to come back to in the lab. Let's take a look at our host name. This is student PC. We're going to view the workstation domain on this computer and see which it belongs to. So we'll do net config workstation. Okay, and we see that the workstation domain here is workgroup. And like I said, this is all part of that enumeration phase where we're gathering more information about the system that we may have potentially just gained a reverse shell into. So to view all of the domains and workgroups on the network, we can do net view domain. We see there's MSEC and workgroup here. So let's view the computer specifically on the MSEC domain. So we'll do net view domain MSEC. And we see here the Win2K3 PC, which is this one right here. And we'll do similar viewing on the workgroup domain. And we'll see that student PC is the only one on that particular domain. And let's see if we could view the resources of that Windows 2K3 PC. Okay, so we see access is denied. So you're unable to view the resources on the remote machine because you're not using the correct credentials. To successfully connect, use the username and password of an account on the remote machine. So we can map to the IPC share to fix this problem. Now, what is IPC? IPC share is used with temporary connections between clients and servers and is primarily used to remotely administer network servers. This is something created by the Windows Server Service. This relates to what is called a null session when you connect to a remote system through any device or share. And by default, IPC runs as a hidden share. So this is something that you may want to even disable to harden your system. A couple quick notes: the $ in the name IPC denotes a share, and IPC stands for inter-process communication. So let's go ahead and connect using that IPC share. And in this case, because we already know this password, we will go ahead and use that to connect. Password is the password. Okay, now I'm going to press up, and we're going to rerun that netview command. And now we see, because we're logged in as administrator on that IPC share, we are able to view that information. Okay, so now what we can do is we can actually map one of these shares to our own file system. So let's map it to the X drive. We'll do Win2K3DC sysvol. Okay, that completed successfully. Now, if we go to our computer here, we're going to see that we have this mounted. And this is related to files that are on this machine right here. Let's come back to Windows 7. Okay. And then we could view a list of all the map drives here. So we see that, okay, this share is mapped to the X drive on this machine. And we could actually navigate to that in the shell as well. We go X drive, dir, and then we have access to that through our own command line on the Windows 7 machine. We could also add a file. So let's do echo. We're going to echo the phrase hello world, and we're going to put it into securityplus.txt. And if we do directory listing, we see security plus txt listed there. And if we use the more command to print this to the shell window, we will see, okay, we successfully echoed that line of text into that text file. And we come back to the C drive. See here, we are back in our regular C drive. Let's remove, we could delete that share, or the mapping of the share. Okay, that was deleted successfully. And that ends the first part of the lab, and using net tool to map shares. So the next part is using PSEXEC. So what is PSEXEC? It's a command line tool that lets you execute processes on remote systems and redirect console applications output to the local system so that these applications appear to be running locally. And you could download this for free from the Sysinternals website, which you see down there at the bottom of the screen. And real quickly too, what is Sysinternals? Sysinternals began as a website by software developers in the mid-90s, which offered free software utilities to manage, diagnose, troubleshoot, and monitor a Windows environment. It was eventually bought by Microsoft, and there's all kinds of useful and powerful tools for monitoring Windows systems. Great, so now you know a little bit more background of these tools that we'll be using. Let me go ahead and clear this. This is just opens the license agreement for PSEXEC and displays all of the basically a help file with all the different options you can use. So let's go ahead and obtain a command shell on the remote 2003 server. And of course, we're entering cmd.exe, which is the command shell. Okay, and now we're just going to type netconfig server to verify that we are connected to this remote machine. And we see here servers active, Windows Server 2003. And let's go ahead and change to the root drive. And let's make a directory called share. And we're going to share this newly created directory. Okay, share was shared. The directory share was shared successfully. And now let's go ahead and use net again to view all the shares on the system. And you see here we have share listed here. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into that share folder. You see right now it's empty. But let's go ahead and echo hello world into world.txt. And we'll go ahead and exit that. You see the operation was successful when you see an error code 0. So now we're back in the Windows 7 command prompt. And let's go ahead and view the newly created network share. Okay, you see it here. And let's go ahead and map this share, because remember this share we had remoted into the Windows 2K3 machine. And now we're going to map that share that we created that file on onto our Y drive on this machine. So let's net use Y win2k3dc share. And now if we navigate to the Y drive, dir, let's go to the share folder, view the directory contents, and we have world.txt. And if we type that out, we will see the hello world that we had created. So let's go back to our C drive. We can go ahead and delete that Y mapping that we just created. And if you do net use, you find that the Y drive is no longer linked to that share. Okay, and that ends step 2 of this lab. And in the third part, we're going to use the SC command, or service control command. We'll be starting and stopping services on a remote machine using this tool. So let me go ahead and clear this screen. Let's go ahead and use PSEXEC again to obtain a command shell on the Windows 2003 server. There we go. Now remember, everything that's happening from this point is actually occurring on this machine right here, because we just remoted into it. And we could verify that for sure. Okay, software version, Microsoft Windows Server 2003. So we could use net start to enumerate all of these started services that are on this Windows 2003 server. And once again, you hear that word enumeration. So we're information gathering. Once again, if you put yourself in the mind of a hacker that had obtained this shell, maybe through reverse shell using malware, you're gathering all of these details about this internal network. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and this at the very top of the list, the automatic updates. We're going to stop that service. Which, if you think about it, from an attacker standpoint, turning off automatic updates would definitely be nice because you know that this machine is not receiving any kind of security updates. So you see that that's stopping, was stopped successfully. Go ahead and exit. So NetStart can stop and start services, but it cannot install or uninstall them. This is where SC or service control command comes into play. So let's determine the level of access on the Windows 2K3 server system. Okay, so the lab wants us to page through a lot of these services. We're going to get down towards the end, and you could just hit spacebar to scroll through here. So I believe the one, yeah, we're looking at the World Wide Web service. We're going to stop this service. So SC stop W3 SVC. Okay, so you see here the state is stop pending. And let's go ahead and view the status of that. We can do that just simply by asking for a query. Okay, so you could see that this has now stopped. And now let's go ahead and start it back up. All right, start is pending. And I'm just going to press the up arrow a couple times, bring that query back up. And now we see that it is running again. So yeah, if you're an attacker and you have the ability to just start and stop, uninstall services at your leisure, you can do a lot of damage. You can keep yourself pretty quiet as well. And, you know, that's what they term an advanced persistent threat. You know, a lot of times hackers can be in your system for months and you don't even know. So it's through acts like this that they're able to gather more information so they could do privilege escalation. They could pivot across the network into other machines. And this is where hardening your operating system, shutting down services that you don't need, like the IPC share, for example, can definitely come in handy. So this concludes Lab 10 of the Security Plus Lab series, analyzing and differentiating types of attacks using Windows commands. If you have any questions, any comments, make sure to leave them down below on the YouTube. Thanks a lot. See you next time.